Do you find that you're just running and running and running and nothing is happening? There isn't a single pound being lost, or that you're restricting calories and really focusing on your diet and still nothing is working. Here at Coach Parry, we work with thousands of female runners over the age of 45 who very often say to us how they are struggling to lose weight. Very often it's that sort of belly fat just that doesn't want to go away. So if that is you, this video is definitely for you. One of the things that we're going to talk about is why you're really struggling, why running on its own doesn't work anymore, how sleep impacts your weight loss, and some strategies that you can start putting in place to really help you on this journey.
With all the hormonal changes that females going through menopause are experiencing, we become a little bit more insulin resistant, and that is why running alone is not going to help with weight management. What do I mean by insulin resistance? So when we become a little bit more resistant to insulin, what happens is our blood sugar levels tend to raise. So the glucose in our blood actually struggles to transfer into the cells quite as easily, and as a result, that blood glucose level increases and we don't use it as energy as easily as what we should. For that reason, it's why we struggle with the weight management and almost tend to find a little bit of that belly fat as a result of stored energy that's not being burnt off the way we should easily be doing so. It is for this reason that nutrition becomes absolutely crucial. And I'm going to hand over to Shona to unpack the nutrition side of things in a little bit more detail.
All right, so Dev has just gone into why running on its own just doesn't contribute to losing weight. One of the really important things that we have to consider is nutrition. We can't just look at the physical aspect, we have to look at our nutrition. And I know because I've worked with so many females in this category who are really struggling to lose weight, and the majority of them, the biggest mistake they make is that they are restricting their diets, in particular carbohydrates. Essentially, why this is such a problem, we think, if we restrict, it's calories in versus calories out, and that should work, right? But it doesn't. And the reason essentially is when we restrict carbohydrates in particular, but it restricts our entire sort of calorie input, what is going on is that the body registers an energy deficit. And when it does that, it essentially compensates by then reducing your metabolic rates. And so what ends up happening is that the body stores anything excess because it feels like it's in a state of stress. And that is really why no matter what you do and what you cut out of your diet, you're struggling to lose weight. So we really need to start matching our energy input to our output. And obviously we want to be in a slight deficit there in terms of losing weight and not gaining weight. But you really, really want to be careful around restricting your diet too much, and in particular, carbohydrates.
So I have spoken about how just running on its own is not going to help with weight management. It is key here. The introduction of strength training is a really good tool that will actually help with weight loss. We all know that strength training is important. We've heard it so many times, but it's really the type of strength training that's actually key here when we are talking weight management in particular. What really is a big benefit is actually the high intensity training. Now, I do just want to caution you a little bit. When I say high intensity training, I'm not saying dive immediately into doing as many burpees as you can and box jumps and those sort of things. We need to start off really slow and making sure that you are laying a good foundation from an injury risk point of view. That's absolutely key. But then the high intensity is really more the time manipulation. So it's not again about those jumps and the kind of exercise as much as it is doing high intensity work for a period of time, dropping it down with a bit of recovery, doing that again. So that's where that interval or high intensity interval training comes in. And it's that quality or that high intensity work that really benefits the weight management side of things. Physiologically, how that high intensity strength training helps is there becomes a natural release in growth hormone, which in turn leads to an improved metabolic rate. Ultimately, that weight loss is what we're looking for in that.
One of the things that makes weight loss really difficult is an increase in stress hormones, in particular cortisol. Now, unfortunately, a lack of sleep is one of the things that really drives up cortisol, coupled with the fact that hot flushes and insomnia are two of the major symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. That really does mean that we need to try and do something to help you to increase your sleep, or in particular the quality of your sleep, because if we can get those cortisol levels down, that will help a lot with weight loss as you continue on this journey. Because you are having some struggles around sleep, it does become quite important that we can make some changes in your sleep routine or sleeping environment so that when you are asleep, you can really get the most out of that sleep. Normally, we talk about when and how people go to sleep, and I think that aspect of sleep and sleep hygiene perhaps becomes a little bit more difficult if you are suffering from insomnia, because if you just simply get into bed earlier, that can actually increase anxiety. So the important thing for you is to try and figure out a few routines before you go to bed that can hopefully help you to get to sleep a little bit quicker. And some of those things would mean being quite strict about getting off screens. So that includes televisions, laptops, cell phones or smartphones, and iPads, anything of that nature that emit blue light, because that blue light both impacts on your ability to fall asleep and on your ability to go into a deep sleep. So I would recommend that you go between 30 and 40 minutes pre-bedtime to get off those kind of screens. Often reading a book or something like that can really help us to get your brain to settle down from the overexposure to the blue light that we get from screens. The second and very important aspect to getting a good night's sleep is ensuring that the sleep space is what we call clean. And we don't mean that in like a cleanliness point of view, but from a sleep health point of view. The darker the room is, the more likely you are going to sleep well when you are asleep. And to ensure that a room is dark, we want to keep it free of things that will impact that. Something like having a TV in your room with a red light when it's on standby reduces the effectiveness of that darkness and how you sleep. Having a flashing cell phone or a cell phone with a light that's blinking, having a clock that's very illuminated and bright, these are all things that impact on our ability to go into a really deep sleep once we are asleep. And so the darker you can keep the room, the better. Another very important part about getting into a nice deep sleep and sleeping well is keeping your sleeping environment cool. That can be a little bit tougher depending where you live, but certainly using things like aircon, using very light sheets, using very light blankets, those are ways that you can help to keep your body temperature down while you're sleeping, and therefore when you do get to sleep, allow you to go into a deeper sleep and get the most out of the time that you are asleep.
So one of the key things that we've discussed in this video is how strength training can help you manage your weight. So if you're interested in a strength training plan, we've put one together, in particular for females over the age of 45. You can download it by clicking on the link on screen now. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other videos, like and subscribe to the channel.